Picture this: the mesmerizing Gulf Coast of the United States, a region boasting jaw-dropping scenery and a climate so divine that people across the globe yearn to experience it. With miles upon miles of pristine beaches, this coastal paradise offers an ideal location within a bustling area of the nation. It's puzzling why a relatively small number of Americans opt to settle down in this particular stretch of the Gulf Coast. If this video piqued your interest and you're eager for more captivating content, be sure to subscribe before we delve into the factors responsible for the Gulf Coast's low population. Have you ever considered exploring the Gulf Coast of the United States? Today, we delve into a specific segment of this enchanting coast that is underpopulated when compared to the rest of the populous eastern United States. This region spans the entire Gulf Coast from the southern tip of Texas to the northern tip of Florida. With over 250 million people residing on the East Coast, it's intriguing that only about 10 million choose to live along the Gulf Coast. According to the Köppen climate classification system, this region boasts a temperate climate, making it an ideal place for human habitation, provided one can tolerate the high humidity. In fact, many northerners have migrated to the southern regions of Florida in recent decades, even though the climates in both areas are quite similar. Water scarcity isn't a problem for this region either. The Mississippi River, the world's fourth longest river, flows through the area, along with other significant rivers such as the Alabama River and numerous smaller rivers and streams. Therefore, a lack of water cannot be blamed for the low population density. In the past, the region experienced a tremendous population growth, expanding from tens of thousands in the early 1800s to over 1 million in the early 1900s. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that a large portion of these individuals were slaves. Estimates suggest that around 55% of Mississippi's population in 1860 was enslaved. After the Civil War and the emancipation of slaves in the United States, it is likely that at least half of the population left the area. Given the Gulf Coast's beautiful beaches, diverse culture, and warm southern hospitality, one might expect a bustling metropolis in this region. But aside from New Orleans, which doesn't even rank among the top 40 metropolitan areas, the remaining cities are relatively small in size. The historical impact of slavery and the subsequent departure of African Americans from the South greatly influenced the Gulf Coast population dynamics. After gaining their freedom, former slaves were no longer confined to the South and sought opportunities elsewhere in the United States. This movement became more pronounced during the Great Migration, which began around 1910 and lasted for several decades. An estimated 6 million African Americans left the South for the North, seeking refuge from the oppressive Jim Crow laws and pursuing better economic opportunities. The Gulf Coast population continued to be affected by various economic, social, and environmental factors. Industrialization and urbanization in the north and the decline of agriculture in the south lured many people away from the region. Additionally, the area faced challenges with infrastructure, education, and devastating events such as Hurricane Katrina and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, further complicating population growth. The global shift towards rapid industrialization dramatically reduced agriculture's prominence, causing the North to surpass the South in industrial development. This created job opportunities in bustling cities like Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, and New York. The Great Depression further intensified the decline of agricultural jobs, leading to a massive urban migration in the 1920s and 1930s as people sought factory jobs and aspired to achieve a middle-class lifestyle. Although there has been some growth along the Gulf Coast, it has been considerably slow and mainly concentrated inland. For example, the population growth in Florida and Georgia has predominantly occurred away from the coast. Major cities in the region, such as New Orleans and Tallahassee, have seen modest growth since 2010, while other cities like Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Jackson, Mobile, Montgomery, and Pensacola have experienced minimal growth or even a decrease in population. One of the primary reasons for this sluggish growth is the region's subpar infrastructure. In their most recent report cards, the American Society of Civil Engineers assigned Louisiana and Mississippi a D+, while Alabama received an average C. Although Georgia and Florida performed better overall, their successes haven't reached the Gulf Coast. Inadequate infrastructure deters businesses from relocating to the area, which in turn impacts the economy and other social indicators, such as public school quality. Furthermore, the region's educational attainment levels have lagged behind other areas, with only a small percentage of adults in states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama holding bachelor's degrees. This could contribute to people leaving these states in search of better educational opportunities elsewhere. Environmental disasters like Hurricane Katrina and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill have also left lasting impressions on the Gulf Coast. These events caused significant damage and loss of life and dealt a severe economic blow to coastal communities reliant on tourism. However, there is still hope for the Gulf Coast region. As housing costs continue to rise in more populous areas, people might be enticed to move to the Gulf Coast in search of more affordable living options. Moreover, with continued investment in infrastructure, education, and disaster preparedness, the region could experience a resurgence in population growth. In states like Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama, only a relatively small percentage of adults hold bachelor's degrees. This may indicate that people are not staying in these states to pursue higher education. Moreover, the ongoing water crisis in Jackson, Mississippi, raises concerns about the safety of local water supplies, discouraging potential residents from moving to the area. Two additional factors have significantly impacted the region. Natural disasters. The Gulf Coast is susceptible to hurricanes and other extreme weather events, which can cause extensive damage to communities and infrastructure. The devastation wrought by Hurricane Katrina in 2005 is a prime example of the lasting effects of natural disasters on the region. The constant threat of hurricanes and flooding may deter some people from choosing to settle in the Gulf Coast. Environmental concerns. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010 profoundly impacted the Gulf Coast economy, environment, and overall quality of life. The spill resulted in long-lasting damage to marine life, tourism, and local businesses. This event, along with other environmental challenges such as coastal erosion and habitat loss, may contribute to the reluctance of people to make the Gulf Coast their home. The Gulf Coast region has faced its fair share of challenges, with Hurricane Katrina and the Deepwater Horizon oil spill being two of the most significant events in recent history. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina, a powerful Category 5 storm, wreaked havoc on the Gulf Coast, causing massive destruction and loss of life, particularly in New Orleans. The storm resulted in over $150 billion in damages and took the lives of 30% of New Orleans' population. Neighboring cities such as Gulfport, Mobile, and Pensacola also suffered extensive damage from this catastrophic event. In 2010, just as the region was starting to recover from Hurricane Katrina, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill occurred, releasing over 210 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. The spill lasted for nearly 5 months, causing severe economic and environmental damage to the Gulf Coast, particularly impacting coastal communities that relied on tourism for their livelihoods. Though separated by several years, these two events cast a long shadow over the region's economic growth and development. It has taken the Gulf Coast more than a decade to slowly recover from the effects of these disasters, with progress occurring at a slower pace than desired. Nevertheless, there are signs of hope for the future of the Gulf Coast. While the region may not be experiencing the rapid growth seen in places like southern Florida or Houston, Texas, the potential for a population boom remains. If housing costs continue to rise in other parts of the country, people may be drawn to the Gulf Coast for its relatively lower cost of living, beautiful scenery, and pleasant climate. The Gulf Coast region's sparse population can be attributed to various factors, including its history of natural disasters, economic challenges, and infrastructural issues. However, as the area continues to recover and grow, there may be population growth and revitalization opportunities. Thank you for joining me in exploring the reasons behind the Gulf Coast's low population density. If you found this information interesting, please consider subscribing to my channel for more engaging content. I appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more fascinating insights with you soon.